been successful building consensus between conservatives and liberals. Can you talk about some of your successes here?
In the past 5 years, largely due to our work and we do not act alone. There are some amazing partners who have helped forge this too. We have passed huge, huge amounts of bipartisan legislation on climate. So we all hear about and the environment. So we all hear if you're plugged in politics, you hear about the Inflation Reduction Act. A lot of people don't even know what that is, but it's the biggest climate investment that the U.S. government's ever made. 100% partisan. So everyone who doesn't really we live in a polarized media age where you're not going to hear about the good things. So everyone hears that and they say, "Well, Benji, how can you say that you're making any progress?" And that's all people have heard about. But yet in 2019, America in the Congress, Republicans and Democrats in Congress, America united around national parks, and there's this huge funding of this deficit of our national park backlog that passed with 90+% support from both the Republican and Democrat representatives. Then in 2020, a clean energy bill passed called the Clean Energy Act of 2020 that Donald Trump signed. He also signed the National Park Bill, also massive bipartisan support. It was the biggest investment in clean energy in U.S. history. Then in 2021 was the bipartisan infrastructure law, which was the biggest investment in clean infrastructure in American history, also bipartisan. We had the 2022 Growing Climate Solutions Act, which is an investment in sustainable agriculture and sustainable farmers, which passed 92 to 8. The word climate was in the bill and it passed 92 to 8. We have seen massive progress. Now, yes, the Inflation Reduction Act was very partisan, and the narrative around this issue has still continued to stay incredibly partisan. But we have seen some of the biggest investments in history in public lands, clean energy, and infrastructure all come with massive bipartisan support. That wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, and it wouldn't have happened without ACC, and it wouldn't have happened without the activists that we have. So things are changing in a really positive way.
The big question that I want to get to is, how were you able to build this consensus? How were you able to achieve these successes?
The successes have largely come by meeting people where they're at, and most Americans, and this means most politicians too, want a clean air, want a clean economy. They want clean water, and politicians are no different. So how do you reach them when maybe they felt like it's a liberal issue and that they don't have a stake in this conversation? You have to meet them where they're at. And if you're in Florida, and if you're a representative from Florida, you care about resiliency of your coasts, you care about the tourism industry, you care about national security, and you care about shipping, you care about the economy, you care about different things. All these issues have a tie to so many other issues, whether that is tourism or national security or the tourism industry. So you can make the case for being pro environment without just talking about this kind of kumbaya, we're going to save the planet mentality. You can talk about it in terms of taking, manufacturing and economic growth away from our adversaries by, bringing manufacturing and energy production back home. You can talk about it in terms of economic growth and jobs in their districts. You can talk about it in terms of protecting their coastline or protecting their farming communities or protecting their local communities. These are all different arguments that maybe don't always use climate or the environment as the first word, but you show how the positive implications of working on these things go far past what anyone has ever told them before. And so you're meeting people where their needs are. And when you walk into a member of Congress's office, the first thing you see is a picture of the natural beauty of their district or their state. They want to protect that. So if you can make the case that this helps protect their district and their local community, they are going to be invested. But if you say, "Oh, we're going to save the polar bears," or "We're going to prevent sea level rise," but you're talking to somebody from Nebraska, like that's not going to work. You have to meet people where they're at. And it's pretty easy to do if you just think about it for a little bit and you think about, okay, what is this politician's values? What do they value? And if you go in there with a good intention, you don't assume the worst, because that's also, a really big problem is that a lot of people kind of assume that these people hate the environment, they have always bad intentions. If you assume the best and you say, what are their values? What do they want to accomplish for those values? And who are they trying to represent? Then you can say, okay, how do these issues of the environment and energy and climate intersect with those values, with those voters, with those people? And if you can do that, it's very easy to find common ground on this issue. This is why the Growing Climate Solutions Act is a perfect example. You had 92 senators who voted yes on that. More Republicans voted for it than Democrats. Why? Because it was a bill that equipped farming communities with ways to lower emissions on their property and on their land and be rewarded for it. A Republican senator in a farming centric state is going to love that for different reasons that maybe a Democrat who's trying to save the planet, but the same outcome. And so you're meeting people where they're at, you're finding common ground, and then it starts to snowball into more opportunities that are even bigger and better than the last.